I wish I'd learned this earlier. However, as they say, you learn everything when you're supposed to learn it. So if you're watching this video, then apparently you are supposed to learn this today. Hopefully long before I did at my age. So what am I talking about? Here's what I'm talking about. There's no inherent meaning in anything in your life. Now, I'm not saying this in a morbid way or a depressed way or a moody way. This is actually really good news. Let me explain. Throughout my life, in my younger years, whenever things would happen of any significance, positive or negative, though I would usually do this more often from negative events, I would go looking for and hunting for the meaning behind it, the inherent meaning behind what does this mean? Why is this happening? That is a fatal mistake, especially in correlation to you being an empowered human who has high levels of self-efficacy. Self-efficacy, the way I understand it, is the ability to basically have goals and then move towards them, make things happen, get shit done. That's a fancy way of saying person who makes things happen, self-efficacy. In a self-analysis of my own life, there's a direct correlation between lower levels of self-efficacy and a penchant for looking for the inherent meaning in things. Here's why I believe that's true. When we go looking for an inherent meaning to something, you are by default looking for an external reason, right? Something on the outside of you. You're looking for an external reason You're looking for an external reason behind that. My phone's almost dead. You're looking for an external reason behind that, which means by default, you are giving meaning and power to something external. And so invariably, two things will happen. You're going to, the first thing that's going to happen is by default, you're going to then be in comparison. Like there's going to be some sort of a comparison to other things whenever by default you're going to an external thing for a reason or meaning. And when you start looking for meaning externally, thereby by default being in the trap of comparison, you're then going to either compare yourself to people doing less than you or who are less fortunate than you. And so you're going to create feelings of false superiority. Or you're going to compare yourself to people who you perceive doing more than you, getting better results than you, and it'll create feelings of false inferiority. And at the end of the day, if you really, really take a giant step back, there's no inherent meaning in anything. And if you can't disassociate yourself from the events in your own life emotionally to kind of see that perspective, think of somebody else's experiences and how they look for external meaning through astrology, through, that's just the biggest one that comes to mind, through karma, family curses, like so many religion, right? Just so many different reasons how people look for external reasons for meaning. And then think about yourself, how you look at that situation. You might be like, I really don't think that's it. Do you see what I'm saying? Once I understood that there's really no inherent meaning in things, it immediately creates two things: a vacuum initially, because now this idea of there being an inherent meaning being gone, it creates this vacuum, this void. Oh no, what's going on? What do I do with this? And nature abhors a vacuum, and I think subconsciously our psyche is terrified of vacuums, so we always fill it with something. But then what happens is that you discover that you actually have the power to give meaning to things. Meaning you have the power to decide the meaning of things. And the first time that I went through all the past experiences in my life, negative and positive, and looked for a lesson, an insight, some form of empowerment or level up that I got out of every circumstance and situation, negative and positive, and literally wrote those out, thought about those experiences and events, wrote out what I might have learned, what I got out of it, even if it was just a lesson, right? As they say, you're either winning or learning. Positive-minded people say that a lot, right? And I tend to agree with that if you choose to be that way. But in writing out at least one thing that I got out of every past event and experience in my life, I authored the meaning. I chose what the meaning of it was. And if you start doing that for your past today, go into your past and choose the meaning of everything. Choose the meaning you want to give it. That's an empowered meaning, meaning looking for something that, some way that every event and experience elevated you in terms of lessons, insights, knowledge, capacity, capability, whatever it might be. You'll be amazed at what that does for your psyche today in the present and moving forward. So just remember, there's no inherent meaning in anything. Really think about that. You control and get to choose what the meaning is of everything.